The desert stretched out like a quiet golden ocean beneath the fading glow of the sun. The last light of day painted the dunes in soft shades of rose and amber, and a gentle breeze stirred the warm sand, carrying with it the whisper of stories older than time. In a small hidden valley between two gentle hills, there stood a very young cactus. His name was Pico. Pico was no taller than a jackrabbit, with short, stubby arms and a crown of tiny white spines that gleamed softly when the moonlight touched them. He had grown up in this quiet corner of the desert, surrounded by sand, stones, and the occasional tuft of dry grass. Life was peaceful, but sometimes Pico felt a little lonely. The desert was vast, and while he had seen lizards scurry by and hawks circle high above, none had ever stayed long enough to be his friend. One evening, as the sun began to slip below the horizon, Pico sighed and looked out over the desert. "I wish," he said softly, "that I had someone to talk to before bedtime." The wind carried his wish across the sands, and the sky deepened into twilight. One by one, stars began to appear, sparkling like tiny lanterns. Pico shivered, not from the cool night air, but from a feeling he couldn't quite name, a mix of wonder and hope. From behind a nearby rock, a soft voice replied, "Hello there." Pico blinked. Who said that? A small, round creature waddled into view. It was a desert hedgehog, with sandy brown fur and a face as bright as the moon. "My name is Nibs," said the hedgehog, smiling. "I usually sleep during the day, but I like to take evening walks, and I heard your wish." Pico felt a warmth bloom in his chest. "Oh, I've never had anyone answer me before. Hello, Nibs. I'm Pico." Nibs sniffed the air curiously. "You smell like sunshine and dust. I like it." He giggled and curled briefly into a ball, then stretched back out. "Do you always stay in one place?" "Yes," Pico said with a nod. "I can't move like you do. My roots hold me here. Sometimes I wish I could see more of the desert, but..." He trailed off, a little shy. "Well," Nibs said thoughtfully, "maybe I can bring the desert to you." Before Pico could ask what he meant, a soft flapping filled the air. A large, silvery gray owl landed gracefully on the rock where Nibs had first appeared. Her golden eyes shone like twin lanterns in the moonlight. "Good evening, little ones," she said, her voice as soft as drifting sand. "I am Sora. What are you doing awake, tiny cactus?" I'm just looking at the night," Pico said. "It's so big and full of stars. I've never really had anyone to enjoy it with before." Sora tilted her head and ruffled her feathers. "Then tonight, you shall have company." Nibs clapped his tiny paws together. "We can have a nighttime story circle. I know lots of desert secrets." Pico felt happier than he ever had. "Oh, yes, please! I would love that." The three new friends settled in. The night had fully arrived, and the desert transformed under the silver glow of the moon. Shadows stretched long and soft, and the sand glimmered as if dusted with frost. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, a sound both lonely and beautiful. Nibs was the first to speak. The desert isn't empty, you know. At night, it's full of life. There are beetles and snakes, owls and foxes, all dancing under the moonlight. Pico listened intently. He had never thought of the desert as full of life. He had only seen the hot, still days. Sora added, "And the night sky tells its own stories. Look there." She lifted one wing toward the heavens. "Do you see that cluster of stars shaped like a curve?" Pico squinted. "Yes, it looks like a smile." "That is the desert serpent," Sora said gently. "It's an old story. They say the serpent travels across the sky, guarding the desert while we sleep. The stars are its scales, sparkling in the dark." Pico's eyes grew wide. "I never knew the night had so many stories." "Every night is a story," Nibs said with a yawn. "You just have to listen." As the night went on, Pico learned to listen to the soft rustle of the wind through dry grass, the faint chirp of crickets, the gentle shifting of the sands. He learned that the desert, even in stillness, was never truly silent. They talked and laughed softly, sharing little secrets. Pico told them how he dreamed of one day growing tall enough to see far across the dunes. Nibs shared his love of moonlit walks, and Sora spoke of the cool, quiet freedom of flying under the stars. After a while, the moon began to sink toward the horizon, and the first hint of dawn touched the sky with pale silver. Nibs curled up at Pico's base, already dozing. Sora spread her wings. "The night is ending, little cactus, but now you will never feel alone again, for you know the desert is alive, and friends are never far away." Pico felt sleep tugging at him, but it was the warm, happy kind of sleep that comes after a day full of wonder. "Thank you," he whispered, "for being my friends." "You're welcome," Sora said, a voice like the softest lullaby. She took off into the pale sky, a silent shadow against the fading stars. Pico watched her disappear, then glanced down at the little hedgehog, curled up like a cozy stone. He felt his heart swell with gratitude and contentment. The desert no longer felt so big or empty. It felt like home. As the first rays of the sun kissed his spines, Pico closed his eyes and drifted into dreams, knowing that night would come again, and with it, the magic of friendship under the stars.